Fantasy Football Week 10 waiver wire targets, waiver wire pickups. Let's just give a couple of names here. I'll let you run with the first name at quarterback, David. Who you like?
It's Tua. It's Tua. Yeah. I wasn't giving up after one bad game, and I'm absolutely buying in now after what we wanted to see was him utilize his legs, is for him to unleash that next level of fantasy upside. And what makes the difference between good fantasy quarterbacks and great fantasy quarterbacks? The ones who use their legs. 35 rushing yards, and some of those scrambles were beautiful. The last drive of the game where he evaded like 3-4 tackles and ran up the field. He's not scared to run. He can run. Those 35 yards might not seem a lot, but that's the equivalent to like an extra 85 passing yards. That's the difference between a 240-yard passing game and a 320-yard passing game. So it doesn't always look crazy, but it's gonna add up on the stat sheet.
I can't believe more people haven't picked him up yet. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it.
They saw one game and they just thought no upside. But guys, this is his first start ever. Come on,
against a good defense, and they were winning. They didn't have to pass the ball. But anyway, I completely agree with that. You know, Kyler Murray had the better game, but what really struck me is amazing as Kyler Murray was playing that game, Tua looked like he was holding up or keeping up with that. And when you're talking about Kyler Murray, he's on another planet right now. Tua, it's not like you saw Miami play and the quarterback played degraded. Like he's legit, everybody. Pick him up, for crying out loud. He is my favorite pickup. Absolutely. I agree with you. I'll give you another name, Teddy Bridgewater, who we've talked about on this show. Now, Christian McCaffrey, he's better with them in there. But early in the season, Christian McCaffrey was getting a ton of rushing touchdowns before the injury. And it's just like, for crying out loud, Christian McCaffrey was getting the receptions. He just wasn't getting the screen pass touchdowns. Screen pass touchdowns count for quarterbacks, everybody. I know McCaffrey will be injured again, but Bridgewater, as we kind of close out the year, he's going to get these nice cheapy screen pass touchdowns. He had the little chest pass to Curtis Samuel, who we talked about in the Carolina Panthers segment as well. I'm not saying he's going to be a starter. I still think Tua is the star potential guy. But if you're looking for a glue guy to get you through some bye weeks or some injuries, I like Bridgewater. You got anybody else before we move to another segment?
I just think for 1 week, we mentioned it before, Drew Lock is another. He's a good stream for at least another week.
Yeah, and I would say moving forward, not this week against the Ravens, maybe Cam Newton. A lot of people have been starting to drop him. He'll still get you rushing yards. Not this week, but New England is seeing what we're seeing. They're going to have to run him some more, so he'll get you some rushing touchdowns, so that could have some value moving forward in the season. Running back, why don't you give me a name on the list you like?
It's Gus Edwards. I mean, he's still widely available, and just he's seeing volume. And I get it, Mark Ingram's coming back.
I think he took that job, man.
That's what I'm saying. I think so too. I don't think Mark Ingram did anything this year to deserve coming back to touches. Right now, he needs to stay on the sidelines. Let Gus the Bus do what he does. Let J.K. Dobbins continue to play. Touchdown in 3 straight games. He's getting the goal line carries. He finishes the fantasy season with Dallas, Cleveland, the Jaguars, and the Giants. He's a great stash. I mean, who cares if Mark Ingram comes back? Just stash him. He's got great matchups down the stretch.
Yep. I'll give you 2 1-week plays, or at least 1 week plays, depending on what happens. We talked about both of these guys. Mike Davis for the Panthers, it looks like McCaffrey be out again. Pick him back up. I know a lot of people have dropped him when McCaffrey came back. And Caitlyn Bellage for the Chargers, who we also talked about in that Chargers segment. Look, man, the Chargers, whoever they plug in there at running back and the primary guy gets in the end zone like every week, and it was Bellage this last week. We'll see what happens, monitor the injuries and everything, but those guys could be 1 week plug-and-plays. Anybody else for you?
I mean, there's actually a lot.
I know, me too. I have like 8 names written down.
Running backs this week. It's hard kind of figuring out a hierarchy for these guys. It's not a bad week to need a running back stash. Like we talked about Wayne Gallman. He's been getting it done. Cam Akers is available in a ridiculous amount of leagues. He's still got upside. At the very least, he's not touching the ball. He's got more upside than essentially anybody who's out there. Tony Pollard. We know Zeke's been dealing with the hamstring. If he misses a game, Pollard becomes a must-start. Duke Johnson. We'll see what P. Ryan does tonight. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there who you could pick up and stash this week.
Yeah, and I'll mention a couple other guys. Well, Damian Harris, to me, is more a longer-term play. Again, not against Baltimore. I don't like the matchup, but a longer-term play. I'll give you Dobbins. You mentioned Edwards. Dobbins is another one that's still available in a lot of leagues for unknown reasons. You mentioned J.D. McKissick with Alex Smith. He's getting crazy amount of targets. That's a season-long development with Kyle Allen being out. Smith is the starter there going forward. Phillip Lindsay, there's a lot of running backs that you could plug in and play. So that goes more towards your tight end argument. You can always find a running back, especially this year. You can't find a tight end.
Wait till we talk about the tight ends after we talk about the wideouts.
I know,
You're
it's
not
a bunch
going
of
to be
crickets.
as thrilled with the options.
It's going to be 30 seconds of dead air. Let's move it on to wide receiver. Who you like at wide receiver is your favorite one this week?
I'm still prioritizing Jalen Reagor as my number one over guys like Curtis Samuel and Mecole Hardman, just because I believe in the talent. I believe that they need a second wide receiver to emerge. He's looked good. He scored a touchdown his first game back against Dallas, and just they have so many injuries. They need a second guy to step up. Curtis Samuel, he's still like on a weekly basis. We don't know if he falls anywhere between second to fifth in the pecking order, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult relying on Curtis Samuel. I like Jalen Reagor a lot as my number one wide receiver claim this week.
Yeah, I noticed him. We'll probably ignore him because he's owned it a little bit more. But if Corey Davis is still available in your league, you got to pick him up. When I checked this morning, he was still available in about 40% of leagues. That's way too much. Pick him up. Don't worry too much about what happened. They're playing the Chicago Bears defense, guys. Don't worry about that. He was kind of due for a little bit of a letdown. You mentioned Curtis Samuel already. I've mentioned in recent weeks, I still believe very much so in Christian Kirk, especially the way Kyler Murray's playing. Christian Kirk, people forgot about him. He was injured for a few weeks. He's been back. I think he's gotten a touchdown every week he's been back. But my favorite one of the week, we mentioned him early in the Thursday Night Football segment, Michael Pittman Jr. You mentioned Reagor. My argument would be the same for Michael Pittman. Two kind of rookie running backs that came in with hype, missed some time with injury. Now they're back. Pittman, I think, will be leading this team in targets regardless of T.Y. Hilton's health moving forward.
Yeah. I don't have too many other crazy names. I mean, they're all kind of like deep stashes at that point. Like Tim Patrick, talk about Darnell Mooney's been producing well. Hunter Renfro looks like the number one Raiders wide receiver again, which he was in the second half of the season last year. And we know he had a better second half of the season. So look at Hunter Renfro to maybe build some steam with Derek Carr. Denzel Mims, we'll see what he does tonight against the Patriots. He's looked good in his first two games. Again tonight, Jacoby Myers, let's see what he does.
Yeah.
He's had 4 receptions each of the past 2 weeks. Gabriel Davis is a nice stash with how well that Buffalo offense is playing. And then Richie James Jr., I mean, he had 9 for like $180 this past week. So if you need a 1-week start, maybe consider Richie James Jr.
All right, David, and tight end, who's your top one this week?
I don't even know what order to put these guys. Yeah. It's disgusting at tight end, to be frankly honest with you. This is why you get Travis Kelce with your first pick at the end of round 1. This is why, because you're either picking between Dalton Schultz, who surprisingly is still playing decently even with the backup quarterbacks. He led Dallas's receiver group in snaps. 69 snaps for Dalton Schultz, 68 for Gallup, 59 for Mari, only 38 for CD. So right now he's on the field basically 100% of the snaps. Also, Irv Smith, he's starting to gain some steam. I think he's probably I prioritize him over Dalton Schultz just because of the upside. But again, he's been completely hit or miss as well. It's all or nothing. He's got 3 games with double digits. The rest have been under 3 fantasy points.
Yeah, I like Irv Smith because he's trending up. Like I think actually what we talked about with the Vikings. I think he's trending up, so I like him. Schultz is an interesting one that you brought up because, seeing what Gilbert was able to do, the offense didn't look awful. So they were actually able to move the ball, so Schultz has value again. I like that. We mentioned the Dwelley versus Jordan Reed kind of debate. Pick your favorite one. David likes Dwelley. I like Reed, but it's hard for me to argue with David. I mean, Jordan Reed's injury history speaks for itself. I also like Austin Hooper, with coming back. I think he had his appendix out. I think he'll be back this week. We'll see. But if not him, obviously Harrison Bryant. I really like the matchup. But my favorite of the week is Dallas Goedert, still available in way too many leagues out there. I'll take Dallas Goedert to be a big factor in the Philadelphia passing game moving forward. Anybody else on your list, or did I cover them all?
I haven't even been including Goedert in my waiver claim because I feel like it should be so obvious. But you're right. He's still owned in less than 50% of leagues. Is like 40% owned right now in ESPN. It's unbelievable.
And everybody's hurting at tight end. He's the guy for me for sure.
Yeah, but I think he's obviously owned in the majority of competitive leagues. So you're picking kind of more. Trey Burton and Mo Alley Cox we talked about. Yeah. It's looking like Mo Alley Cox today. Maybe tomorrow it goes back to being Burton. Yeah. But just both of these guys right now, they're utilizing the tight end so much. You got to just kind of stash and hope one of them emerges. Maybe you obviously don't hope for injury, but that would be a pathway to one of these guys becoming like a weekly auto start. And then just a couple more names way down, like if you're really desperate. Logan Thomas, still playing 100% of the snaps. Not 99, 100% of the snaps. So he's out there. 3 for 28 is not sexy, but
Alex Smith will involve him as a safety valve quite a bit.
When he scores, he's going to have a decent fantasy week. So, I mean, 14-team leagues, maybe deeper leagues. You know, if you're desperate, you need a bye week fill-in maybe for Travis Kelce this week. Go out, maybe consider Logan Thomas. Jacob Hollister is a guy who last year showed a little bit. He led the Seahawks in snaps this past week. So I'm keeping my eye on him as well, or the tight ends, I should say. He led the Seahawks tight ends in snaps over Greg Olsen, over Will Dissly. So keep an eye on Jacob Hollister if maybe in a 2 tight end league. Throw him on the bench, see what happens if he continues to lead that tight end group in Seattle.
Yeah, I like that one. I've always liked Hollister, so for him to out-snap those guys, that's a positive trend. Let's move into defense and special teams here. I'll start with my favorite one of the week. I bet you'll agree. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the New York Giants. Everybody dropped them off the bye week, but the Philadelphia Eagles are, like, at this point, I think they're like a top 7 defense, if I'm not mistaken. I know they're in the top 10, and they have a nice matchup against a team that has been struggling. So the Philadelphia Eagles are absolutely my slam dunk defensive special teams pickup of the week. How about you?
Yeah, I would say that as well. It was the Eagles, and that's the one thing that kind of I'm happy about, because I talked about how I dropped Mike Davis and played Jamycal Hasty. The only reason I dropped Mike Davis, this was in the Pros with Joe's tournament league, and the defense scoring is so bad that if they have a bad matchup, they're going to go negative. So me and my teammate Derek, we've been stashing a defense for the next week, and we dropped Davis for the Philadelphia defense this past week because they were on the bye. So we'll be able to play them this week. That's the only thing that is keeping me from just smacking myself in the head for dropping Mike Davis.
Plus, remember, Philadelphia does close out much of the season, especially down the stretch, with NFC East opponents. So that's a good thing. I'll give you another couple that I like. I like Minnesota. I know Minnesota's defense has been struggling, but they're playing the Bears, and they are trending upward. Obviously, Philadelphia's way better a play this week, but if you miss out on Philly, I think Minnesota would be okay. Green Bay versus Jacksonville could be okay, but that one worries me. Houston versus Cleveland could be okay, but less so with Nick Chubb likely to be coming back. So those are the only ones I have. To me, it's Philadelphia or bust, really, in terms of fantasy
there's not
football.
A whole lot of great streaming options this week. A lot of the better matchups are already from highly owned defense, like you talked about the Ravens playing. You don't have a chance picking them up.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I think we can close out the show, man. Anything for the crowd before we head out, man?
No, except for maybe Caitlyn Bellage. Take him seriously. We talked about it before. Stash him. I know it's taboo just saying his name. It feels dirty having it come out of my mouth. But don't just write this guy off. No. This Chargers team is producing running back fantasy points week in and week out. If he takes the number 2 job behind Austin Eckler, he's going to have value.
Every week.
Chargers spot, stash him. Let's see what happens.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, everybody, hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you again next week. Enjoy, everyone.